Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This is group assignment PLC. Our group members are Muhammad Iskandar Shagdari, Osama Muhammad Aglan, Faisal Muhammad Al-Akhshar, Al-Haymi Hamza Abdul Malik. And we are going to start our presentation with the problem statement.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Al-Haymi Hamza. Now I will explain the problem statement. This is a semi-automated bakery system. In this problem, there are two conveyors, oven, timer, two limit sensors, a counter, and a solenoid. Conveyor 1 is used to move the three cakes to the oven by pressing the start button. The first limit switch sensor will detect the number of cakes and send a signal to the counter. When counter counts 3 cakes, the conveyor 1 will stop and the oven will turn on for a specific amount of time. After that, the timer will turn off. At the same time, conveyor 1 will start to move again to send new cakes to the oven, and conveyor 2 will move out the baked cakes. At conveyor 2, there is a limit sensor to detect the cakes from the oven. Once detection happens, the solenoid is set to a timer of 6 seconds to push the 3 cakes to the box. This is the basic concept design of the system. First, we have the start button, conveyor 1, cakes, oven, limit switch 1, conveyor 2, limit switch 2, and solenoid. Cakes will run into the oven, timer will start, cakes will go out of the oven, limit switch will count, solenoid will push to the box.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Faisal Al-Akhshar. After we have heard the problem statement and the concept design for our problem, now I will explain the flowchart for our system. First of all, we will push the start button. After pushing the start button, the conveyor 1 will move. After that, the sensor 1 will detect how many cakes passed and send the signal to the counter, which is the 3 cakes. After the sensor detects the 3 cakes, that will set the value for W0 hash 0000 and W1 hash 0001, and the oven will turn on. When the oven turns on, the conveyor 1 will be off and the counter will reset, and the input timer will start count for 10 seconds. After 10 seconds finish, the conveyor 1 will turn on to bring the new cakes, and the conveyor 2 will move to take out the baked cakes. Sensor 2 will detect how many cakes will go out. When the sensor detects the 3 cakes, the conveyor 2 will turn off, and the solenoid will turn on for 6 seconds to push the cakes inside the box. After the 6 seconds finish, the solenoid will turn off and end. And that is the flowchart for our problem statement.
Okay, my name is Muhammad Iskandar, and I am going to explain the part of the conventional method. Before running the code, I will go through the ladder diagram for explanation. When I press the start button, the coil will be energized, and then the conveyor 1 will be on until the sensor detect 3 bags of cake. So the counter will show that 3 cakes have been detected, so that the conveyor 1 will stop and the oven will be on for 30 seconds. Then after the time is done, the conveyor 1 will be on and conveyor 2 will be on. The conveyor 1 just to take the new cake to the oven, and the conveyor 2 to take out the ready cake from the oven. Then we have placed sensor 2 here to detect the ready cakes that comes from the oven. So when one cake comes out, there will be an increment here until it reach number 3. So when it is 3, W1 will be equal to W0, so that the solenoid will be on for 6 seconds. After the time is out, the solenoid will be off and the coil will be reset. So now let's start and run the code. Okay, no problem with our ladder diagram. So we press the start button. Okay, and off. Okay, now the conveyor one is on. Now let's detect the cakes. Okay, 1, 2, and 3. So now the oven is on for 30 seconds. After that, the oven will be off, and then the conveyor one will be on, and conveyor two will be on as well. So the time is too long. I forget just to reduce it. After that, the conveyor one, as we said, is on, and conveyor one also is on. After that, we will detect ready cake from the oven. So now it is 1, 2, and 3. The solenoid will be now on. After it is on for 6 seconds, then the equal will be received. Thank you.
Okay, now the shift register method. Here we can see the completion table and shift register table. Here the process one. So the process one, it starts when conveyor one moves, and it stops when counter one actuated. And then process two starts when oven on for 10 seconds and also starts timer one, and then it stops when the timer ends. And also here for process three, conveyor two moves, and it stops when compare output contact at 100.05 is on actuated, and that happened when sensor 2 detect 3 objects coming out from the oven, which will activate the p equal contact with the function of comparison between the two values w0 and w1, meaning when they are equal. And for process 3, process 4, solenoid will be on or energized for 6 seconds plus start timer 2, and it stops when the timer 2 is actuated. So let's go to the CX simulation and see. Here we will start the circuit here, and after that we can see that what happened now is we move the value of 1 to the H0, and we move the value of zeros in hex to W0, and also to W1 we move another value which is number 2 or number 3, depends on our application. We choose number 3, but this one for simplification. Okay, so now we set all the values. Now we move to the shift function. As we can see here, we have the always off that will add zeros for our sequence, and here for the H0 here, and here also we have the pulse coming from here, which will be actuated from this output each time to move from one process to the other. And here we have the stop button in case we want to stop the system, the shift register. So let's see here the first process. Now conveyor 1 will be initiated and will be on as soon as we start our program, and we can see here that it will only stop and complete when counter count 3 pies, so or cake. So let's go and see. Here is the sensor number 1 that will input the values to counter 1. Here we will enter for example the first cake, and here we off the sensor after it moves, and then again we enter the value of another cake. So for simplification we just make it like this for faster simulation. Now you can see the oven is on and the conveyor will stop. the conveyor will stop, the cake are inside the oven. Now the timer here also is open and counting the time, the sufficient time, 30 seconds here, the TIM timer. After the time is passed, then what will happen? We will see what will happen after that. Okay, what will happen is now the conveyor is still off. This sensor, we will remove it from the counter here. It will be 0 again. Because this one is off, the conveyor one. Here we go to the conveyor number 2. Conveyor number 2, which is located after the oven, will be energized and start moving and running. And after that, we will see here the math function compare, that will compare W0 and W1. In this case, the initial values are still here, meaning 1 is 0 and 1 is 3 or 2 for this example, for the simulation sake. Okay, P equal here is still not energized, meaning it's not equal. 0 doesn't equal 3 or 2. So what will happen? Now here we have a function, increment function, will add to W0 values. So each time this sensor number 2, which is differential up type of function, will give a pulse and will detect each cake entering to conveyor 2, meaning going out, exiting the oven. So after we finish here, we see what will happen. Another time, at first we can see here the value is 1, so meaning it's counting. It's another way of counting using math function. Here we can see it's now off. So now what will happen? Now we can see the B equal highlighted, and then the conveyor is on. Now we can see the solenoid also on, already the solenoid and on the timer. But what happened is, after the timer finished, what happened? Let's go up to understand. So after the conveyor is working, now the compare, which is this one here, was on, since we have counted 2 values. Then this one is close and complete, so basically giving a new pulse to move to the solenoid. So the solenoid will be actuated H003 and it will only complete when timer finish. So let's go down. Here we see the solenoid, it's on. We can make it here, it's on, as we see just now before this. It's on, the solenoid is on, actuated for 6 seconds here. When the 6 seconds finish, we saw that this one was off. Why? Because we complete this function here, and then we move to the new function, which is a process, which is H004. What is H004? It will repeat, meaning it will set the values for the counter. So comparing the values down will be not equal anymore, as we just see now. It's not equal anymore. And also here we can see that we will also reset the counter to count the cakes going to the oven. So it's gonna be again 0. So the conveyor one will work also again. So we will start from here and we will count 1, 2, 3. This one will repeat the function. That's all for me. Thank you very much.